Another video done. What next? Think. What do I do for my next video? Fuck! Please let there be something good in here. Stickers? What am I gonna use these for? Gesso? I already made that video. Paint? I do that every week. Please let this be the one. Pastels. Huh. Hi, I'm Caroline and welcome to my corner. Today we're gonna be using a material that I've had in my stock for a long time, but I just have been too scared to pull out. It's the Sennelier oil pastels, and they act like paint. When I was in college, my professor told me about these pastels. I used some of his and I loved them. But when I went to go buy my own, they're quite expensive, and I still bought them, but I was just too scared to use them. And so they've been sitting in the back of my supply for way too long. But I kind of just wanted to be relaxed, take this slow, and just not stress out about what I'm trying to create today. I'm more trying to learn the medium of these oil pastels and seeing how they work before I'm able to use them in my other paintings. I'm hoping to eventually use them to layer on top of my paintings. Here I did a little bit of quinacridone magenta before I started in the pastels, but that was just because I didn't want any white shining through. Here I'm using quinacridone magenta to block out the lights and the shadows, which gives such a good base to your painting. I love to say this every time. Quinacridone magenta or any sort of color helps just give a nice solid base. I'm painting a photo that I took back in college. I took it up Logan Canyon, which has the best falls, and I've been wanting to actually paint this photo for forever, but I feel like the stars have never aligned, and so now we're gonna be using new material and just trying to let loose on this painting. I'm a little nervous to start, and so I kind of try to layer the colors from light to dark, but I don't fully know how these work yet. I'm starting with the orange trees because that just feels like the safest option to me, and layering the yellows, oranges, and then I start to come in with a bit of red to try and build a bit of depth. It was kind of hard to build depth in this piece. It was hard to mix. I didn't fully understand it, but I feel like by the end I have a good understanding. And I'm trying to figure out how I want my marks to be laid down, because typically when I'm using my brush, I know the flat strokes, I know what kind of vibe I'm going for, but here the pastels are just so messy and different, and I feel like once you lay it down, you kind of have to stick to that color that's down there. I then, I experimented with that yellow tree, and then I feel a little safer to move on to this bright orange tree. It's just I wanted to layer a wash of white because I feel like that would help when I go to lay down the orange. I start off quite hard because I'm trying to capture the shadows, and then I'll go in a little bit lighter so that way the highlights of the tree come through. Here I'm going with a little blue because I felt like this was a good color that was opposite the orange to go in for the deep shadows and the deep branches of the tree. I'm trying to capture where the spaces in between the leaves are. I feel good about the trees, and then I go in on the mountain, and I have a lot more success with the mountain, I think, in this piece because it's a lot more natural colors. I feel like I had an easier time layering it versus the trees. I feel like because I didn't have the right pastel, I wasn't able to quite get the colors I wanted. I go through and put a layer of shadow with this blue, so that way anything that goes on top of it is naturally going to become darker, and it's going to have that shadow. So that way I don't have to go in with the blue later, and it looks a little bit more unnatural. Going in on the gray, it helps build up the color of these mountains. I'm starting to learn how these pastels work with being careful about lighter, very light layering to get those lighter colors, and so the other colors come through. And then I feel like if I'm putting it down flat, I feel like if I'm really pressing it down, when I go to put down another color, it just does not work, and then the pastel just becomes a mess. then start to have fun with the pine trees here. I'm layering all sorts of greens. I actually layer a nice sky blue to try to capture the shadows there. I feel like the sky blue really weirdly helped. I was very happy with that. And then going in with the yellow, I don't want to really place down the yellow. I'm just wanting to, again, get the light hitting. We have a little squid interrupting, little baby girl. Both my cats always love interrupting. Like right now, they're just laying on the bed and they're so cute. I'm trying to bring those shadows back in. I feel like I got a little bit too light with the trees. I feel like where the trees are at this point, I'm pretty satisfied with. I think I end up overworking the trees a little bit. I don't know, I just kind of keep going. Actually, I kind of do like a bit of the shadows. I'm taking this dark green and actually taking it from the front shadows of the front trees and pushing it back onto the mountain, because the mountain is covered in these pine trees. And so it's easy to just kind of get the sense of a pine tree. And I think that works here. I'm really trying to keep these darks away from where I want the light to hit, because I'm learning that like these pastels are forgiving in a way, but not like extremely forgiving. I feel like if I'm laying it down dark, no matter what, it's not gonna be as bright as I want after that. Going in, I think I'm just going in with the white, trying to layer that down, as that helped me on the trees before, mixing it a bit with the green. I was nervous to go in on the actual branch that's coming through the thirds. I wanted the tree to come across, but I wanted to make sure to get the background, and then I come back in on the branch and trying to really bring it to the front, making it bright highlights, dark shadows, so it stands out from the rest of the piece. Then going in with a lighter gray back to the mountains, trying to layer that out, as it's not just like all bright white and greens back there. I'm learning to take this slow and just go in by color and slowly build it up, rather than just like immediately go in on it. Going slower and making the smaller movements helps create a level of detail that I feel like is hard to achieve with this medium. And once I've laid down the mid-tones, I'm happy to go in with the black. I feel like this darkest level of contrast starts to make everything pop and stops making everything so like I feel like everything gets to a mid-tone point, and I don't like that. And so I like when I go in with these harsher tones, creating that contrast, because I feel like if your piece is flat, it's because you don't have enough contrast. Going back in on this tree, trying to get the grays. It's not really a brown tree trunk, it's dead, so I'm trying to capture just that. I have a bit of a hard time with it. Sometimes trees can be tough for me. I like the way I'm going in with these branches here. That ends up adding a lot more to these orange and yellow trees at the front. And then I feel like I went a little bit overboard, so I'm coming back in with the white, trying to blend it out, and then going with the oranges, creating contrast, yada, yada, yada. And then I feel like my piece is at a good point, and so I start going in on the sky, which is a part I was really excited for, trying to lay out the blues. And then I like start off quite harsh, and then I'm like, wait a minute, these are gonna be like bright clouds. And then I come in with the sky blue, which is a little bit too sky blue in my opinion. I feel like I don't really capture the true color of the sky that's in the photo. I realized that my pastels are gathering too many of the other colors, and so I use nothing other than my hand to be able to try and clean that off. Later, when I went to go wash my hands, it actually took a ton of soap to try and get the oil pastel off, which I mean, I probably should have thought of before I used my hand as a canvas. I hope you enjoyed watching me try out a new medium. I think that this piece could use more bright highlights, but I like the level of shadow I got in here. I feel like it was hard to keep things light in this, but I'm sure next time I'll be able to create something even better. And I don't know, I enjoyed doing this. It felt nice to finally break out something that I've been meaning to use for so long, but I've been too scared to. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked, maybe comment, subscribe, and hit the like button. This was Caroline's Corner, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.